AITA for getting my eldest daughter a kitten to reward her sacrifices for her non-verbal autistic sister. Despite my wife's overwhelming frustration, once there was a family caught in a delicate balance, managing the daily needs of a young child with non-verbal autism, while trying to meet the emotional needs of their eldest daughter, a bright and observant 7-year-old girl. Her name was Emma, and from a young age, she showed a sense of patience beyond her years, often giving up her own needs to accommodate her sister, who required constant supervision and care. Her father, let's call him Mark, had watched Emma's quiet resilience for years. Each time a playdate had to be cancelled or a special treat was redirected to her younger sister, he noticed how Emma would smile and nod, swallowing her disappointment. Emma, he realized, was growing up faster than any child should, sacrificing her childhood in ways that left a mark on her spirit. For years, Mark had tried to bridge the gap by occasionally buying Emma small gifts, a book she wanted, a day at her favorite park, but he knew these gestures didn't quite fill the hole of the things she yearned for the most: friends, free time, and a sense of normalcy. As Emma grew, she developed a longing for a kitten. It became her dream, her escape. Each time she saw a kitten, her eyes would light up, and her joy was palpable. Mark wanted so much to fulfill this wish, but Emma's mother was overwhelmed by the responsibilities of their autistic child and saw the kitten as one more burden to manage. Time and again, Emma's hopes were dashed, but her father remained watchful. He knew he had to do something special for her, something that recognized her sacrifices in a meaningful way. After one particularly tough week, Mark made a bold decision. Against his wife's wishes, he brought home a kitten for Emma. The joy on her face was immediate, radiant, and undeniable. For the first time in years, Mark felt he had made a decision that centered on Emma's needs, showing her that her sacrifices had not gone unnoticed. However, his wife was furious. The argument that ensued was unlike any they had before. She demanded he return the kitten, accusing him of disrupting the delicate balance of their lives. But Mark stood his ground, defending his decision to honor Emma's struggles. The rift between Mark and his wife only deepened. As the days passed, he began to see Emma blossom in the presence of her kitten, finding a source of happiness that wasn't limited or conditional. But the decision had consequences. Mark's wife eventually insisted on separation, unable to reconcile her priorities with his. Mark moved out, taking Emma and her kitten with him. Determined to offer her a life where she could feel valued, he arranged for therapy for Emma, knowing that years of sacrifice had taken a toll on her emotionally. One day, Mark confided in an old friend, a psychologist, who shared insights that resonated deeply. Children like Emma, who live with the unique demands of a sibling with high-needs autism, often face lifelong emotional challenges, sometimes leading to anxiety, depression, and resentment. The psychologist recommended long-term solutions for their younger daughter's care, explaining that these would ultimately benefit the entire family. Mark, heartbroken but resolute, realized he could not do this alone. He was making these choices not only for Emma but also to protect their younger daughter's well-being. The journey was far from easy. Through trial and error, countless sacrifices, and painful realizations, Mark came to see that caring for both his daughters required different paths. Emma needed freedom, recognition, and space to grow, while his younger daughter needed specialized care. Mark's decision allowed both girls to thrive in ways he hadn't imagined, with Emma's story serving as a powerful example of the impact of silent sacrifices. "I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid." The story begins with Emma, a 26-year-old woman, whose life takes an unexpected turn when she meets James, a seemingly single and charismatic older man who brings warmth and excitement into her life. Emma is drawn to James's maturity, his successful career, and his seemingly open, caring nature. Their connection feels instantaneous and profound, almost as if they were destined to meet. They spend long nights talking about everything under the stars. And for Emma, it's an escape from the mundane routine of her everyday life. But what begins as a whirlwind romance quickly becomes entangled in secrets and lies. James, in his 40s, had painted himself as a dedicated single father, focused on raising his kids while maintaining his career. Emma admired his commitment to his children and his apparent dedication to family values. Yet, After months of dating and a deepening emotional connection, Emma finds out the truth in the most unexpected way. One evening, while browsing through James's social media, she notices some photos and small hints that raise questions. After a bit of digging, the realization hits her: James is married. Emma feels devastated, but she's also deeply invested in the relationship by this point. She confronts him, and James, unflustered, explains that his marriage is in name only and exists only for the sake of stability for his kids and business. He promises that he and his wife live separate lives and are waiting for the right time to officially part ways. His explanations sound plausible, even comforting, to Emma, and despite her misgivings, she decides to believe him. However, a year into their relationship, Emma's life is changed forever when she finds out she is pregnant. The discovery leaves her feeling a complex mix of excitement and fear. She imagines what life would be like as a family, even daydreaming of James leaving his current life to be with her and their baby. But when she finally shares the news with him, James's reaction is not what she hoped for. His face changes, and he immediately insists that this isn't part of their plan. He urges her to terminate the pregnancy, offering to fund the process and make it as smooth as possible. He even suggests a trip out of town to get it done, offering gifts and gestures that feel shallow in light of the situation. Emma's heartbreak is immense. She feels used, betrayed, and devastated by James's cold dismissal of both her and their unborn child. Despite the hurt, she decides to stand by her decision to keep the baby. After an emotional confrontation, she promises James that she will leave him alone, raise the child independently, and not seek any financial support or involvement from him. She moves back to her family, where she finds support and comfort, determined to give her child a loving and stable life. Over the next 2 years, Emma adjusts to the new rhythm of single motherhood. Every day brings challenges, but her love for her son is unwavering. She is determined to be both mother and father to him, giving him the secure, loving environment she never had with James. Her son becomes the center of her universe, and she feels a sense of purpose that she had never felt before. Just when Emma feels settled into her new life, an unexpected message arrives. It's from James's ex-wife, who had discovered the affair and, more surprisingly, learned about Emma's son. To Emma's shock, the ex-wife suggests that her children should meet their half-sibling. Emma is taken aback. After all, she had promised herself that she would keep her son out of James's life. She fears the ex-wife's intentions, wondering if this is a move motivated by bitterness or guilt. As she considers the ex-wife's offer, Emma realizes that it's not just her own heart at stake. Her son deserves to know his family, even if it means reconnecting with painful memories and opening herself up to vulnerability. Yet she's torn, fearing the potential upheaval this could bring. Emma spends many sleepless nights thinking about what this connection would mean for her son's future. One evening, Emma's son, now 2, asks her a question that stirs her heart. He's seen other children with both parents and is beginning to notice the difference. The innocent question reminds her that someday, her son will likely want to know about his father. This realization brings both a deep ache and a sense of responsibility. She knows that while she has tried to protect her son, she can't shield him from the truth forever. After weeks of contemplation, Emma decides to respond to the ex-wife's message cautiously. They agree to meet at a neutral location, and Emma, though nervous, is determined to handle the situation with grace. At their first meeting, the ex-wife surprises Emma with her sincerity. She explains that she holds no ill will toward Emma. Instead, she blames James, whose deceit has hurt them both in different ways. The ex-wife even shares her own struggles and heartache, providing Emma with an understanding that she had never expected. The two women find a strange solace in their shared pain. As they continue to talk, the ex-wife expresses her hope for their children to know each other and emphasizes that her motivation is not revenge, but a genuine desire for her children to connect with their half-brother. Emma begins to see the potential in this connection. She imagines a future where her son could grow up with siblings, perhaps even having a sense of family beyond what she alone can provide. But James's sudden interest in his child complicates things further. He contacts Emma, asking for a chance to meet their son and be involved in his life. Emma is torn. She's wary of his intentions and doubts whether he truly wants to be a father. Given his initial rejection of her and their son, She feels the wounds of his past betrayal reopening and is afraid of exposing her son to someone who once pushed them both away. After much deliberation, Emma agrees to supervised meetings, allowing James to see his son under her watchful eye. During these visits, her son is shy, hiding behind her and showing clear signs of discomfort around James, who is essentially a stranger. Emma feels a pang of guilt, wondering if she's making the right choice by allowing James back into their lives. As these supervised visits continue, Emma finds herself struggling with conflicting emotions. She wants her son to have a father figure, but she also wants to protect him from potential disappointment. Her son's happiness and well-being are her top priorities, and the thought of him feeling abandoned or hurt is unbearable. Through this process, Emma realizes that being a parent means constantly balancing what she wants with what's best for her child. Her own heartache becomes secondary as she focuses on creating a positive experience for her son, regardless of her unresolved feelings toward James. Ultimately, Emma learns that love and sacrifice are deeply intertwined. By allowing her son to know his father and siblings, she hopes he'll grow up feeling secure in his identity and loved by all the people in his life. Emma's journey is far from over, but with each step, she gains strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of what it means to be a mother. She knows that, no matter what happens, she will continue to fight for her son's happiness, even if it means facing her own fears and letting go of the past. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend, betraying both our marriage and my trust in the most painful way. It was a typical morning, though in hindsight, maybe there had been hints of something brewing under the surface. As I watched my husband, Tyler, lying there peacefully, unaware of the storm I was about to face, I felt gratitude for him, for the life we had built together. Little did I know, I was on the brink of a discovery that would shatter my world and challenge everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and loyalty. I had a simple plan that morning: get our 3-year-old, who was down with a fever, settled before tackling the day. My husband's work alarm blared loudly, and as I leaned over to silence it, a message notification popped up on his lock screen. The text, innocuous at first, immediately stole the breath from my lungs. I'm assuming since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady on my doorstep. You haven't told her about us yet. I froze, feeling the weight of disbelief crush my chest. My best friend, Jess, my confidant, my soul sister, the person I had trusted with my darkest secrets, was messaging my husband. I felt an instant rush of nausea, barely able to process the message as reality slammed into me. They had been seeing each other. These two people who had once been the pillars of my life. There was no dramatic fight, no thrown vases or raised voices in those first moments. Just cold, crushing silence. It felt as though the floor had vanished beneath me, and I was free falling, desperate for a handhold, a reason, anything to help me understand. After a long night of silent agony, I took a deep breath and opened Tyler's phone. I read through their messages, each word like a dagger, a silent betrayal of every promise we'd ever made to each other. There, in black and white, I saw the evidence of an affair stretching back 4 months. Hidden in plain sight, I could hardly believe it. There had been no suspicious late nights, no unexplained absences. He had woven their infidelity seamlessly into our daily life. I felt crushed, hollowed out, as though the love I thought we had was nothing but an illusion. My mind raced as I relived memories of recent months, moments where I had thought Tyler was comforting me, holding me up as I watched my father's health deteriorate. Now, those memories felt tarnished, a farce played out in front of my unsuspecting eyes. Still in a fog of disbelief, I reached out to my mother-in-law, Ruth, and to Jess's mother, Angie. Both women were horrified when I told them the truth. Angie, bless her heart, hugged me tight as I cried. She whispered words of strength, and I clung to them, holding onto her compassion as though it were a lifeline. Ruth, too, was devastated, struggling with the realization that her son had betrayed not only me but also the values she had worked so hard to instill in him. With their support, I knew I wasn't alone, and in those bleak moments, I found a flicker of strength. They encouraged me to take time to process, to lean on them while I figured out my next steps. Though I still had love in my heart for Tyler, the foundation of trust was irreparably shattered. The next days were a whirlwind of paperwork, meetings, and plans. I contacted a lawyer, A kind woman with a firm handshake and a determined look in her eyes. Who guided me through the legalities. Let's make sure he doesn't take anything more from you, she said, a spark of empathy in her gaze. I gathered all our financial records, sought advice on securing my assets, and prioritized protecting my children's future. I felt myself growing stronger, more determined, with each step. Every checklist I ticked off, every document I gathered was a small victory, a promise to myself and my children that we would be okay. Even if the road ahead seemed impossible, I spoke with my former boss, who kindly offered me my position back whenever I was ready. For the first time in days, I allowed myself a glimmer of hope. I could envision a life beyond this hurt, a new beginning where I wasn't weighed down by secrets and lies. With my plan set, it was time for the hardest part, confronting Tyler and Jess. The night before, I barely slept, my mind torn between dread and the flickering hope that maybe, somehow, I'd misread everything. But that morning, as I sat across from them, looking into their faces, I knew I was doing the right thing. I laid out the evidence in front of them, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. Jess looked away, a mixture of shame and defiance flickering across her face, while Tyler hung his head, barely able to meet my gaze. My heart broke all over again as I watched them squirm, their discomfort nothing compared to the devastation they'd left me to pick up. Tyler begged for forgiveness, claiming it had been a mistake, a lapse in judgment, but his words felt empty, hollow, as though he were simply playing a part he thought I needed to see. Jess, too, tried to explain herself, blaming stress, loneliness, anything she could think of, but I cut her off. There's no excuse. Jess, you chose to betray me, to destroy the life we shared. There's nothing more to say. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into building a new life. I moved my children and myself into my father's cabin, a safe haven far from the memories of our shattered home. Tyler tried to reach out, alternating between pleas for forgiveness and bursts of anger. But I stayed strong. Each time I felt myself wavering, I reminded myself of the pain I had endured, the strength I had found in its wake. I spent hours talking with my children, gently explaining in the simplest terms why Daddy wasn't living with us anymore. We cried together, held each other, and I vowed to be as honest with them as I could. They deserved the truth, even in its simplest form. The journey wasn't easy, but every day, I found myself growing stronger, more resilient. In therapy sessions, I unpacked years of buried emotions, learning to forgive myself for not seeing the signs, for trusting too deeply. My therapist encouraged me to see this as an opportunity to rebuild, to find a version of myself that was stronger, more grounded, and fiercely protective of my own happiness. I threw myself into work, slowly reclaiming the sense of independence I'd lost over the years. Each paycheck felt like a step forward, a declaration of my own strength. I found comfort in routine, in watching my children thrive in their new school, in feeling the crisp air of our cabin become a sanctuary for healing. One night, as I tucked my children into bed, I felt a profound sense of peace. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I wasn't consumed by pain or anger. I saw a glimmer of hope for a future beyond this chapter, a life filled with love, strength, and resilience. I realized that, despite everything, I still believed in love. I knew I would find it again someday, in a form that honored who I was and the journey I had taken. In those quiet moments, I allowed myself to hope again. My children, my lifelines, had shown me the true meaning of resilience, of love that endures even the deepest hurt. I knew that, no matter what, we would be okay. Together, we would weather this storm and emerge stronger on the other side. If there's a lesson in this story, it's that betrayal doesn't have to break us. It may change us, yes, but it also has the power to transform us, to help us uncover a strength we never knew we had. Through heartbreak, I learned to prioritize my own happiness, to set boundaries, and to embrace a future on my terms. To anyone going through similar pain, know that you are stronger than you think. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who remind you of your worth, and who help you remember that love should never come at the cost of your own peace. In time, you'll find that you are more than the betrayal, more than the heartbreak. You are whole, deserving, and capable of building a beautiful life.